I guess it's about time I get around to actually covering some of these new jets. Before we get into that, I just want to real quick plug my new Patreon. It's on screen here, link is also in the description below. If you wish to directly support the channel, that is a good way to do so. If not, your comments, your subscriptions, just watching the video is plenty enough. So thank you all to have stuck around for this long. But anyway, yeah, here's the MiG-29 on the live server. If you guys hadn't known, I was pretty critical of the MiG-29 on the dev server. I still am critical of the MiG-29 on the dev server. The way it was with the R-27Ts, with the R-73s, was unacceptable to see on the live server, and I will say that I don't take back any of the things I said about the MiG-29 while covering it on the dev, and I am more than happy with the way it was implemented onto the live server. The R-27T was a little bit over-nerfed in my opinion. They didn't have to go quite to that lengths as far as nerfing that missile. It is definitely underperforming. I think the R-24T right now is simply just better in every single way. That being said, I don't think that the MiG-29 was necessarily a problem. I think it was pretty balanced for the most part. It wasn't way too strong by any means. Most people thought it was way too weak for that matter, which we're going to touch on more here in a little bit, as well as an entire dedicated video, because to be honest with you, I just don't really like this patch a whole lot, and mainly because of the rank 7 premiums, and that's where the MiG-29 has really been struggling ever since it's been introduced. It's because the Russian teams are full of premiums. A lot of times in the top tier matchmaker right now, what you're going to see is US versus pretty much everybody else, and if it's not US, it's US and one other country versus everybody else. What's the problem with that? Well, the US has no rank 7 premium above battle rating 10.3, and so what that means is they have no premium players on their team in these top tier matches. If you don't think that is drastically going to affect the MiG-29's win rate, then you are dreaming. So yes, statistically, the MiG-29 has not been performing well, and I honestly don't think that is any fault of the aircraft itself. I think it's a lot of the other circumstances, one of which we just touched on as far as the premium players and whatnot. That being said, I personally wouldn't mind the MiG-29 to get a slight buff. It's not performing quite as strong as I think it could be. Same with the F-16. I think that plane needs some tweaks as well to its benefit, which I'm going to save for the F-16 video. But the MiG-29 could definitely use a buff. Does it need one? No, but I'm not going to be upset if it does have one, and in fact it does. That's what this video is about today. The MiG-29 now has R-27ER missiles, and these missiles are definitely the strongest radar missiles now in the entire game. I just want the record to show that I am completely happy with the implementation of the 27ER. I don't think that it's too strong by any means. Of course, I fully expect the American players to be upset about it because for once they can't just go full commit head-on people with radar missiles and not have to worry about any kind of counterplay. Do I think the MiG-29 needed the 27ER? No, I don't really think it needed it. But is it really hurting anything by having it? No, I don't think it is. Radar missiles, ever since they've been introduced, have some kind of element of counterplay to them. There is always something you can do when a radar missile is fired at you in order to not die from it. And if this is not the case, it means you're too close to the radar missile when it's being fired at you, and you put yourself in that position to begin with, and you kind of deserve to die. That's nothing but on you. Peep those unflareable 9Ls in the background, by the way. Of course, that's nonsense. They are flareable for the most part. They are a little bit unpredictable and a little bit inconsistent, I would say, but I'm also going to save that for more of a dedicated F-16 video since I think it directly more so applies to the F-16 rather than the MiG-29. However, I don't think that the MiG-29 should get any kind of upgrade to IR missiles because the R-60Ms are completely adequate right now for top tier games. The R-73 is absolutely not needed. In fact, with the 9L being nerfed as far as flare resistance, I'm going to tell you that I would rather have the R60M over the 9L in today's top tier, because except for maximum range, the R60M does everything better than the 9L does. It pulls harder, it's got better close range performance. On the MiG-29, you get the helmet mounted sight as well. It's just all around better. The flare resistance of the 9L is a little bit better still, but it's not enough to actually matter because it's not just going to be straight up ignoring flares like it used to. The range of the 9L is not that much of a bonus to me just because that the missile's so slow, it burns for so long. The odds of somebody not seeing it coming over those extended ranges, considering they have an extended amount of time to be situationally aware, I think that's pretty slim, and very rarely you're going to actually be able to take advantage of that range. But let's get back to the 27 ER because that's the meat and potatoes of the MiG-29 right now. This, like I said, is the best radar missile in the game by far. It may not have the most range out of all the missiles. That goes to the Phoenix, that goes to the 7F. Of course, the Phoenix is kind of a joke when it comes to actually hitting a maneuvering target. And if you know what you're doing, you're probably not going to be dying to Phoenixes. That being said, mistakes do happen, and I am going to show you a classic example of a radar missile jousting mistake that I think a lot of you are probably going to make in the MiG-29, and I do as well. So I've got this guy locked up, I shoot my 27 ER, but look how fast I'm going right now. I'm going 1.2 Mach, almost 1.3 Mach here, and no signs of slowing down. I'm going into a dive, my speed is increasing even quicker, and by the time I get a kill, I now notice an incoming radar missile, but I'm 1.4 Mach. There is zero chance that I'm going to be able to turn in time to notch this missile. I'm just too fast, the closure rate is too high. I pop my air brake, I cut my throttle, I do everything I can to try to slow myself down to get into the notch in time, and it doesn't matter. The closure rate between me and that missile was just too high, I didn't have the time that I needed, and the lesson to take away from there is you don't need to be going Mach 1.4 when you're going into a missile joust. That can be beneficial, but more often than not, it's going to do you more harm than good, considering you're not going to be able to maneuver that well at all, and get into the notch and be able to chaff and stuff like that. So as a rule of thumb, I'd say watch your speed, make sure you're not getting any faster than, Mach 1.2. If you have a lot of distance, then sure, you can risk going faster because you'll have more time, but just in general, the 27 ER is going to be outranged by the 7F, and that is something that you're going to have to work around. It is something you can work around though, and I'm also going to talk about that. You can see in these clips here how I'm evading these incoming radar missiles. I'm turning my plane at 90 degrees and I begin chaffing. His radar is not going to continue tracking me, and even if it does, his missile is not going to because of my chaff. So after I've defeated that missile, I am now going to re-engage in the direction that I want to shoot my missile. I've spotted a MiG-23 over here. I'm going to go ahead and queue mine up. I've noticed that he hasn't fired one of his own yet, and that means that my missile is absolutely going to get to him before any of his could ever have a chance at getting to me. Another cool thing that you witnessed there in that clip is that the 27 ER has some level of inertial guidance actually coded and implemented into the game. You saw me lose lock there quite a few times, but the missile didn't just instantly explode or go stupid right when it lost radar signal. I was able to actually relock in time due to the fact that the missile kept on tracking the position that it thought the target was going at the time of its last radar signal. The F-14 right there tries to shoot a last second missile at me, but at that point my missile is just so much closer to him than his is ever going to get to me. The move right there for him would have absolutely just been full commit to defending against my missile. He was never going to get his off in time to actually kill me, and so if he planned on living, he was going to have to 90 degrees and notch my radar. Last couple things when using the ER, I like to, well, granted you're getting your missile off first, your missile's always going to reach them before theirs is going to reach you. It's just that much quicker than the US missiles. And just to make sure of that, I like to slow myself down considerably by using my air brake and pulling some maneuvers just to make sure that my speed isn't quite as high and I'm not reaching his missile as quickly as he is reaching mine. And lastly, if the US player does get his 7 off before you, just don't take the head on. It's not worth risking it. You can always go ahead and find another target. Simply turn yourself 90 degrees from his Sparrow and use chaff. Go a little bit cold if you have to, and that might help it work even better. Hope some of you found this helpful out there. I hope you guys are enjoying the new update, and I will be covering more of it very soon.